Good evening. Welcome to Keemy's Tea of the Day, Season 3, Episode 9. The rest you knew of it. And I have a special guest, a friend of a friend who's been here before. And we're live this time in living color. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you.
And
Glad to be here.
it's time to discuss and go over your book that finally came out. Fairy Riley Rose. We're about to get into some things, y'all. Y'all ready? We got some juicy questions to figure out the process and what that looks like. And what drove her to getting into writing overall. Y'all ready? Let's go. So we're back. Thank you for the lovely intermission. So, tea time came with my morning coffee. Look at that.
Who would have thought tea and coffee actually got together?
You know, we always discuss about bloggers and podcasters coexisting in the same space. And it's just so wonderful that we're here.
We can actually combine it.
It's an amazing thing. Yes. So, hopefully you're ready for these wonderful questions that our listeners really want to know.
I hope so.
I think you got this. So, question number 1. What got you into writing?
My junior high school teacher. I was a very quiet person. I didn't talk to much people. I just kept to myself. And one day, I guess I was looking sad, and my teacher came up to me and banged me a piece of paper and a pen and told me to write. And I said, I have nothing to write about. I have nothing to say. And he said, you have lots to say. You don't have to say to me. You don't have to say to them. Say it to this paper. I can see it in your eyes. And ever since then, I started to write. And then I wrote down to 3 papers. And I didn't even know I had that in me. And ever since then, that's what I knew I wanted to be.
Well, thank you to that teacher, because he seen something in you and he brought it out.
He definitely did.
So, what author changed your whole perspective on writing?
And as a whole?
As a whole.
I would have to say what changed my side of writing is what's around me, what kind of things we read, what kids read, what's been written, you know.
Well,
there's a whole world of artistry out there and people need to see it.
Who was the author that changed your whole perspective?
Well, I would say Daniel Steele was like my number 1. Her writing is incredible. She was actually supposed to just write 1 book. And she wound up writing up to 192 books.
192 books?
192. And her first book, she just did it, and it was sold out within the week.
In a week? That's amazing.
I mean, that's what I hope for, to be something inspiring like that.
You definitely will. You're on the road to it now.
That's what.
First book?
First book.
And next thing you know, it's going to be 192, 100, and 200.
Yeah, or hoping 200.
It's going to get there, don't worry. So what was the first book you read, and did it make you feel something?
I would have to say it was one of those, I can't remember the name of the book. I remember it's one of those thick books that had lots of poetry in them.
Oh, poetry.
Yes, that's where I started. Poetry. You know, of course the rhyming and the feelings. But I remember going into this book and it had so much poetry and different emotions that made me want to start writing poetry in the beginning. And then I worked my way up, but I just remember it was just several artists in one book.
So poetry was your passion at first? So poetry was your passion at first?
Yes, it was my passion at first. I felt like you can do poetry and still make your feelings heard at the same time. Poetry
is a very understood genre, I feel like.
I feel like it's stronger now.
It's getting there.
It's very, I'm not going to use the word aggressive. I'm going to say more, what's a good word for it? more passionate. It's definitely more passionate than it was ever from back in the day. So I got to give it up to the poets on that.
Thank you. So, who are your top 3 authors of all time?
Well, obviously I said Daniel Steele.
Mm-hmm.
And there's J.K. Rowling, which you ever seen Harry Potter?
Yes.
I mean, everything actually starts with a book, and that started with a book, and it became series, and it was incredible. And you can't make up the stuff you see in Harry Potter, like, well, I can anyway. And then, of course, there's Stephen King. I mean, who doesn't love Stephen King? You got like a little horror, a little mystery, a little everything. Stephen King is, for me, back in the days, of course, was like a big thing for me too. Definitely.
Stephen King has definitely changed the trajectory of a lot of people's careers and a lot of people's writing skills, just artistic skills. He definitely has a hold on a lot of people's gifts, per se.
I say he thinks outside the box, and I think beyond the box.
There's just no limit.
And there is no limit to Stephen King, and I'd be so blessed to be just like Stephen King, but maybe one day.
One day coming soon. So, what is your top 3 favorite books of all time?
You're probably gonna laugh. It's based on I know two top is Joy Luck Club. Joy Luck Club.
Joy Luck Club?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was one of my books that I learned was in school, and I remember it had a lot of story to it, a lot of backstory, and then they made it to a movie, which was like, I was a little worried that it wouldn't keep up with the book, but it did. It did really good, and it was based on a young lady, and it was just a normal life. It's just not in our sense. It was like, as a Puerto Rican, say I'm Puerto Rican, and it was based on the family life and what we do and the religious, and it was Joy Luck Club was definitely one of my top books. I remember really being into, and the second one is Interview with the Vampire.
Interview with the Vampire.
Yes.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I saw the movie before I read the book, and I fell in love with, of course, Brad Pitt, you know, and was it Tom Cruise? I think it was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I definitely Brad Pitt. Obviously, I was a fan, and when I read the book, it gave justice to what I saw in the movie. Yeah, so it was definitely one of my top 2. This Stephen King's, I can't even. There's so many Stephen Kings, so I like all his books and all his movies.
So, since you kind of got into the next question, so with all of the books turning into movies, that adaptation, what do you feel like is your favorite book that turned into a movie, and why? What, like, which one really just went deep and really made you feel what you read in the book visually on that screen?
Obviously, it's Interview with the Vampire. I mean, I had a infatuation. I was younger. I had a infatuation over vampires, as every teenager, I'm assuming, does. But this was a different version. It was like Dracula, but better.
Dracula, but better?
Yes.
How can you get better than Dracula?
It had more feeling. I mean, not saying Dracula didn't have feeling. It was more of different views of what a vampire looks like. It was just one. There was one emotional one. There was a child who had outbursts like every child does. I mean, there was obviously the one who didn't care, you know? And I think that's what, you know, kind of lured me into being infatuated with Interview with the Vampire, because the different views on vampires and not just sticking to one view, like Dracula.
I love that. So what is your go-to genre of books to read during your leisure time?
I like drama. I like drama and I like horror. I like drama and horror because I like to try to figure out before I read the ending if I know who done it, who cheated, or who killed. You know, it was sort of like I try to guess before I get to the end.
Before you get to that.
Yeah, I guess that's the writer in me.
And do you feel like you always figure out before you get to that ending?
Most of the time I do. But there are some that still shock you. I'm like, that's not who else saw coming.
So what book do you feel that really gave you a run for your money, or really had you guessing and you still couldn't get it until you read that ending and then you were just so surprised of the twist?
Oh my God, I can't remember. It was a long time ago. I can't remember the title. But I could have sworn it was the husband, as everybody does. And it was like everybody viewed into the husband. It looked like it was the husband, but then it didn't. And then it wound up with sister, which was insane, a twin sister. And I can't remember the name of it. But once I find it, I guess I'll put it in the comments below.
So, in your opinion, as a writer, right? I'm a renowned writer. Let's just put that out there because it's renowned at this point, right? So, in your opinion, what elements are important in writing?
I think passion. If you don't like, you can obviously write. You know, there are a lot of people who can write, but on my perspective, or my opinion, I think you have to have passion for it. I think if you're just doing it to do it, like if it's in school, people get A's, obviously. But if you want that A plus, passion,
is hot.
you want that passion. You want to be able to say you love doing it. You know, you want to do it in and out. That's all you think about. And that's what I think the number one thing is, to have passion when you're writing.
So what do you feel like you get the passion from? Like, what drives you?
Because I think with me, I have words, right? But I don't normally express them as well when I'm talking. Then I'm writing. When I'm writing, all my feelings come out, or everything I need to say is on a piece of paper. And I think that's where I get it from, because I don't express it by words, I express it by writing.
Well said. So passionate person. Because most artists, that's how they express themselves. That's how they are able to say the words that they may always want to say, but never
couldn't say it.
Never could get into saying it. And the same goes with you. So eventually, that one page or that one paragraph or that one sentence turns into a book, 2 books, 3 books.
Exactly, because I had no idea that I was gonna get this far in the first book I'm doing now, and one story became 2 chapters. 2 chapters became 3 chapters. 3 chapters became a book.
So it's possible, guys. Just hone into your passion, and the stars is the limit. This is a work in progress, and look at this. First book, about to be out in stores.
Exactly.
So what comes first for you, the plot or the character, and why?
I start with a plot, because starting with a plot is that you have something in mind, you know what you want to do, because characters, they take a little longer, you know. And I would say that you can have a character, but what's the story? What's a character without a story? So you have to have a plot, you have to have a story before you do a character, and then within that start, then you build the character into it.
I love that. So, what advice do you have for writers?
Make sure you know your characters. make sure the character that you choose is the character you want. Sometimes you write a character and then you change it in the middle and say this is the character I want afterward. Make sure your character is noticeable, or your multiple characters, because there's obviously more than one. You probably have two main characters. But yeah, I think if I had anything to say to my writers, is make sure their characters are on point, and that's what you want to do. And be passionate about what story you're trying to show. The story makes the character, and the character makes the story.
No, that's great advice. So knowing your character is your most important thing.
Exactly.
For you.
Yes.
So as a writer, what would you choose as your mascot, avatar, or spirit animal?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with a leopard. I always had a fascination over leopards because they're fast, they're slick, and they're beautiful. So if I had to choose, leopard would definitely be my mascot.
So fast, you said slick and beautiful.
Yep.
Just like your boyfriend. You're just so good with this, huh? So if you can tell your younger writer self anything, what would that be? What would you tell that young girl?
I would say have more confidence. Around the time I was younger and I started writing, it was told, women should basically be in the kitchen. And, reading was not something that was definitely on the top of the list. And even though I knew I liked to write, I always worried about what everybody else thought, and they thought, that I wouldn't be able to make it as a writer. And I wanted to tell her that you can, you will, and be aware that you're going to go somewhere.
I'm happy that that's great advice for not even just for your writer self, just as a person.
Yes,
a younger person.
I was very insecure when I was younger. Very insecure. It took a very long time for me to come into myself, as you could say.
And that's amazing that you're here, you're present, and you're thriving.
Thank you. I try.
So, have you read anything that made you think differently about fiction?
Okay, so you might laugh. Okay. I had a
Infatuation.
Exactly. With I have two kids. So Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss had multiple books. He somehow took imagination to a whole new level, and he made them learn things at the same time. So if I had to choose, it would be anything with Dr. Seuss books in it.
That's a good choice.
It is. It's
because Dr. Seuss,
it's memorable.
It was just his classic quotes, his classic learning
and his
tools,
rhymes.
His rhymes. It's just everything, especially in that genre, that day and age, completely timeless.
Exactly. And it's still relevant to today.
Dr. Seuss. So, with your artistic process, right? What do you feel is the most difficult part of that process? Take us through that.
Okay. So, in any story, I'm going to have to draw it again as a character. I'm going to have to say that anybody can write a story. But doing that perfect character for that story, making sure you have a good backstory to that character, is very, very difficult, but could be achieved.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about wanting the readers to want to figure out why this character is the way it is. And I think that's, if I had to name, that would be it,
So that would be the most difficult thing for your artistic process?
It is. It's very difficult because you want to keep up with your character. You want to make sure that they remember the name. And I think that's what I did with my book.
You did. Because every character from front to cover. Like, you understand them like they're yours.
Exactly.
Like they lived with you. Like you grew up with them somehow.
Yep. Like I knew what I wanted to be. Sort of like that cartoon. Smurfs.
Okay.
They had characters that you don't remember at all,
Mhm.
which is like the background ones. But then you have those who you remember so much, like Mrs. Smurf and Papa Smurf and Nerdy Smurf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are like. That's what I wanted for this story. I want everybody to remember the characters, and I think that's what I did.
I believe you did. So, as a child, even though I feel like we just kind of got that answer, but I just want to deep dive into it.
Okay. I know you didn't.
So, as a child, what was your favorite book and why?
Well, like I said, it wasn't a normal book. It was. I remember it was thick, and it was a green cover, and just had multiple poems in them, and it actually had some rhymes as well. I remember rhymes about like Jack and Jill, but like a different version.
Okay.
And just it was just like the way they put it, and they didn't have pictures in the books I read. So I had to use my imagination.
Yeah, you have to visually.
I had to visual it, and I think that's what I loved about it more, because I could visual it throughout the words, and the words were so good that you could picture it. And that's the kind of book I remember reading when I was young, and it was just this one book with the multiple rhymes and poems.
Y'all, you gotta find that book. You gotta read it. We have to deep dive into that one too, because it seemed like it's magical.
Definitely was for me when I was younger.
So, with writing books, there's a lot of research that goes along with that, right?
Yes.
So, what research did you do for this book?
Well, first of all, I did a lot of research on the name alone, which originally it was supposed to be called Emily Rose.
Emily Rose.
But then it was connected to, believe it or not, a horror movie. And the last thing I want to do is connect a horror movie with a kid's book.
Yeah.
So, of course, I had to nix it, and that's how I came up with Riley Rose. And, but it did take research, because I didn't want to be like everybody else. I wanted to be original. I wanted to have an aspect, and I didn't want, the research I also did was the way that other people wrote. You know, it's all about different writing and what you see and what you don't see and what you want in your book. So you have to do research and
writing techniques.
Exactly. And that's what it was based on.
So how did you, from all of the reading that you've done throughout your life, how did you hone in or depict what writing style works best for you, and then craft it into your own technique?
I always had a infatuation over mini stories. Well, it wasn't overdrawn, it wasn't too long, even though I love Daniel Steele and Stephen King, and I infatuated with them. I also had an obsession over short stories.
Okay.
With short stories, they had a beginning, they had an end, and it wasn't overwhelming, but it kept them going, and that's what I basically wanted to do.
You don't want it to be too thrown out, but you want it to be as detailed, as specific as possible.
Correct.
But not where you feel like it's too much.
Exactly.
I like that. I love mini stories. Opposed to, like, even mini movies. I love movies, but then I would prefer like mini movies sometimes over action movies, because
well, think about it. It's like a show. The long shows, an hour, 15-minute shows. We love it because it's longer than a half an hour.
Yes.
But it's just enough to
get me by for the next week.
Exactly. Me, I mean, I binge, but
I think we all binge, especially if it's those good ones like You and stuff like that on Netflix.
Well,
you have to binge.
Exactly.
So, I hope you're having fun with these questions. And I hope that y'all are learning a lot.
I'm a little afraid of, the other questions coming up.
So, about your book, this book, Riley Rose. about this book,
Yes.
what inspired you to really create this wonderland, this fairyland?
Okay. Well, you ever heard of Fungali? Fungali was based on sort of like fairies.
I know the character.
And
I know a
humans.
character.
And humans, and they were trying to make the world a better place. Even with nature, they didn't want the trees cut down. They just wanted to survive.
Okay.
And that's sort of where my idea came from, but not fully. Where I wanted my own backstory to these fairies, and I wanted them to be original and have their own backstory, you can say. And that's where I think I got it from, you know. Even though Fungali is definitely well known, especially the bat, if anybody has ever seen it. It's awesome to watch.
So, was there a time in your life when you felt like an outsider? Like Fairy Riley Rose?
Whew, that's a good question. I still feel like outsider.
Okay.
I still feel like outsider. A lot of people look to me and they enjoy my company, but I can be in company and still feel like an outsider, if that makes sense.
You can still feel alone.
Yeah, I can still feel alone. I have multiple friends with different views on life, different views on what, you know, is a good friend or what they do. And sometimes I can't relate, but I try to. So, but I still feel like an outsider. I feel like I've always been an outsider.
So, do you feel like you conquered what Fairy Rose conquered?
I think I did. And I think this book is going to prove it. I think this book is definitely going to say that being that I'm a misfit, people are going to remember my name.
I love it. So, I noticed while reading, while taking a gander down Fairy Lane, like your son Damon's name was used in this book. What made you put his name, and why was that so important for you?
Okay, well, most of the characters in my book are based on the younglings in my family.
I did not know that.
I have multiple sisters who have multiple children, and I wanted them to be a part of this world that, you know, they can't really have in real life. And of course, who would not want to have their child in there? I have both of my children actually in there, Brian and Damon. This book is actually dedicated to them.
They're dedicated to you, baby?
Yes, they are.
That's amazing. So, are you excited for them to read it? For them to relive this wonderful fairyland that you've created, all for yourself, all for your family, all for just people who aren't the norm, who feel like a misfit, who feel like an outsider? What do you expect them to get out of this book?
I expect them to know that despite of what everybody considers normal, that they're just as normal. They're just as special, and they can make a difference in the world one way or another.
So, I noticed that you used the word normal.
Yes.
So what does...
That's what the world considers normal. Everything has to be, you know,
Let's
the thin, the smart, you know, the overachievers. Some people do not overachieve. Some people, you know, specialize in certain things, you know. And for that reason, they become sort of a misfit, some outsider, because they don't do what everybody else does. And I think what it is that they have to feel it in themselves that they're just perfect the way they are.
I love that answer. I'm gonna drink to that because you did that. Just see this hot, guys. So, who helped birth Fairy Valley Rose? And how did you get it off the ground?
Who birthed it? I want to say I started it off as just a writing of a story. I wanted to see if I can do it. And then when I wrote that chapter, I remember it being so good, and I showed it to like my siblings, and they were like really surprised about it, and they were like, "You should, do more." And I'm like, "Oh no, that's enough." But then my kids, they read it. They read the first chapter, and they were like, my oldest son was like, "Well, you should make it into a series, or you should make multiple stories." And I was like, maybe I should, And I think it's because I heard it from my children that I wanted to write more of this character, Riley Rose, and I think that's when I made it into a book. Just the inspiration around me helped me.
So, will there be another installment of this fairyland that we're on?
Of course. My next book is, I think it's going to be really, really interesting. And it's going to give a lot of tales, and I think the fairies are finally going to meet up with the humans. So I think it's a lot of adventure going to be in that story. And let's hope they enjoy it just as much as the first one.
So I'm quite sure they will. Let's be honest. But I want to see if the books will stand on its own. Would they be like their own entities, or would it just become like a series? Like the first one is Fairy Valley Rose, and then we get into maybe Abel or maybe Damon's story, or are we gonna get different perspectives of different fairies?
Each like the first book, each chapter, which is normally 3 chapters a book, there is a story to be told by a character. So you're not just focusing on Riley. There are multiple characters, and they have stories that need to be told, and I think that's what I'm going to do with the next book. I'm going to bring it out more other characters, maybe new characters as well. So I'm very excited about that.
I'm very excited for you.
Thanks.
We love a thriller. We love a installment segment.
Yeah.
So, what's next for My Morning Coffee? Your blog, and just for Vanessa the writer.
I just started this maybe a year or so, the blog. The blog was a way to get my name out there. That's how it started. But then the feedback I got on the couple of stories that I had put up there, I've heard things which surprised me. Like, my blog was like a blanket and a cup of coffee in the morning time on a Sunday. And it was inspirational to know that people reading my blog, like I was a no-name. And now I'm up to almost 1K. Almost 1K.
I don't think they hear you.
Almost 1K.
Almost 1K.
Yes.
It is hard to get that. It's hard for you to get people to read in general.
Exactly, especially these days.
But for you to get 100,000 people to really deep dive and read your blog every time that you blog is amazing.
And I always get feedback on it, which is incredible. I've gotten people who cried over it. I've gotten people who responded well to it. It was just incredible, the feedback I get, and the more feedback I get, the more inspired I get. And I just don't focus on one subject.
At all.
At all. There's no subject I don't touch.
And I love that about you. You're fearless. And I love that you always incorporate it at the end with, in the beginning of, let's have a latte, let's have a frappuccino, let's have a macchiato.
Yeah, because I want to give that feeling that, like we are right now, we're just sitting, we're talking, and that's the kind of feeling I want for my blog. I don't want to sound like a business. I don't want to sound like you're being forced to read this. I want it to sound like we are face to face. We are having this conversation, whether it be deep, whether it be funny, whether it be sad, and we're just drinking coffee. And by the time you finish, you won't feel as sad or anything anymore. You'll feel relaxed.
You'll be at ease.
At ease, definitely.
I love that. So, I think we're almost at the last question.
Oh.
So what does success mean to you? And how has it altered throughout the years?
Whew. My success actually came a while ago where my education was shortcomings when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to finish the way, everybody else finished. I didn't finish at the same age as everybody else. And I didn't get to finish at all. As I got older, I realized that education is a very part of who I want to become.
Mm.
And I went back to school, and I got my bachelor's in literature writing, and I think that's a success as is, because I did it on my own, and I proved to the world that education is what I need and what I was looking for, and that brought me to where I'm at today.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So what last words do you have for us today? For all of the writers out there, all of the entrepreneurs, just anyone that's listening to this.
If I had to talk to anybody, I would want to talk to the misfits of the world and let them know that they're not alone. There's plenty of misfits out there. You don't have to be normal, or you could be normal if you want to be, but don't force yourself. And aspire to be the better you. And I think that's what this book and what I'm trying to achieve.
Inspire to be the better you. I'm going to put that on a coffee mug. Because I think we all, especially as human beings, can really just gravitate to that. Because we all want to be better. We always want to be the better person. We always want to show up.
Yes, definitely.
To anywhere and give as not the representative of ourselves, but of the actual person that we are. In order to get there, we have to really do the work and do the homework and really become that better person.
Exactly.
That we want to be. And of course, we're always going to change. We're always going to evolve. So that better person that you are right now could be something completely different 5 years from now.
Exactly.
Which is amazing, as long as we don't stunt our growth and don't stop doing the work. Yeah. And really understanding our toxic traits, the toxic traits of other people, and just understanding the whole atmosphere that life has to bring to you.
Yeah, and don't let your insecurities get in the way, because that's what I did. And it would have been a lot better if I didn't let my insecurities, get in the way. But on the other hand, my insecurities got me very vital roles. So it's really hard to say, but just know that if you do the work and you believe in yourself, you're going to be able to do anything.
Anything at all.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just want to really just look at the detailing of this artwork. And who helped you with that?
Well, I have actually a very new illustrator. His name is Jonathan Espinal. And he was very detailed, because when you read my story, you can tell in my story there's a lot of details. And he tried to aspire to my details. And I looked at a lot of illustrators, and a lot of them did not give me what I needed. They didn't hear what I was saying. They didn't read the characters correctly. But Jonathan knew exactly what I wanted, and he knew how to present it. And even if I made mistakes in the character, he would help me. And if he made a mistake, he would correct it. And that's what you want in an illustrator. You want to be able to draw out the best character you can. And I think Jonathan did that for me.
He did an amazing job. I feel like he definitely helped me really live into this fairyland.
He definitely did.
And
he made it alive, you can say. bring it to life.
And we all want to get there. I want to meet Fairy Riley Rose. I do. I'm obsessed with her. Like, she really is. She's really that girl. And it's just amazing to see her growth throughout the book, to see what she overcame, to see her perseverance.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, she has a little spunk about her.
Yes, she does.
And she does. But she also knows what's right from wrong. And I think she has a lot to offer the world. And the funny thing is, her actual name came from my niece. My sister's daughter. And she's a little wild child. But she's smart. And she knows how to handle the world more than we do.
That's amazing. So, can we get an excerpt from the book? Or do we just have to read it?
Whew. I think you guys are going to have to read it.
So, on that note, I just want to thank Vanessa for coming over here to Keemy's Tea of the Day and really just giving us some gems of the writing business, of the writing world, of becoming a writer, of her process and her delivery of Fairy Riley Rose.
And it's coming out, it's being released December 4th.
December what?
4th.
Huh?
December 4th, right before Christmas. So I would like you guys to go out there, check it out. Comment below on what you thought about it. And I'm going to be going live soon in a couple weeks, giving out some gifts according to Riley Rose's book. So look out for that.
And this was like good old tea and coffee of the day.
See you later. Bye.